G'day friends and fans. Welcome to Dave Talks Stuff. Today we're having a look at feminist doublethink. Now, Louis Theroux's documentary Inside the Manosphere has captured something extraordinary. It has exposed feminist doublethink. It has put it on full display for all to see. And in this video, I'm going to expose a feminist and how this feminist is using DARVO. Now, this means deny, attack, reverse victimhood, and offender. Now, a feminist claims to have developed this technique. That is a lie. She claims it's the world's first technique to expose all male sexual predators, that she only has to look at their hands, look into their eyes, and she can tell that he is a sexual offender, right? Now, the reality is they use DARVO to project the feminist worldview onto all men by exploiting the existence of male sexual offenders while ignoring female sexual and female financial abuse of men. Females are sexual predators. They do not have to use coercion. They use seduction. They use the fact that they're weak to get up into your personal space and rub up against you. That is the first stages of masturbation. They are already sexually abusing you, trying to arouse you with their scent and their rubbing to reduce and their the scent created by the discharge of body fluids to arouse you, to cause you to lose self-control, so they can dominate and manipulate you. Now, this isn't a documentary preview of Louis Theroux, nor a preview of this Broken Guarded Tools video. But don't get me wrong, this is a broken guarded tool, and I am going to show you how this jolly old professional fascist is using psychological techniques to manipulate you. And what you know, knowing is half the battle. Now, first off the bat, she is creating an illusion. Everything about this woman is carefully crafted to manipulate you. Where shall I start? The makeup. Women wear makeup to hide their age, to make them look younger. The haircut. The haircut was, does anybody know the TV show, the It? I'm sure I got the title wrong. It's a British comedy. The leading man in it had the broken afro. It is actually a Afrocentric copy of the side part haircut of professors at Oxford. Right? It's believed the haircut is to project a certain gentleman's club of academics and intellectuals. It is known in some circles as the Afro-intellectual haircut. Why? Because they wanted to split, right? Open the mind, open up. Not to mock and ridicule the hairstyle of Thomas Sowell, a legitimate Afro-American academic. She is a psychologist. That is a pseudoscience at best. So, next, the jewelry. Pearls, elegant, stylish, to project grace, to project success, but not too much, modest success, right? The clean teeth, the perfect teeth. This is a attraction modifier, right? People with bad teeth get low graded. People with good teeth get high graded. Just look at how plastic Jimmy the Beast is. Once you see he's got that he's replaced his teeth, got a Joker smile tattoo pretty much imprinted on his face. He's scraped skin. He's Botox. Everything about him is plastic. You can't unsee it. Look how plastic she is. She's not a real person. Right? She's had her chin tucked so that there's no lines. Look at it. No lines on her face, almost. What else? The colour of the room. This is a boy's room, not a girl's room, except it's got the feminist photo, the angry singer. Right? We got the pencil and notepad, so she's put her work to the side. She's trying to, right? She's got the hen's hand ready to peck at you. She's got the books to project academic qualification and intellectualism. And she's diminished Louis Theroux, her subject, to draw attention to it, but not to enlighten, highlight it. I've also like to point out her phallic microphone. She's pretty much eating the dick, and it's oversized, of course, the feminist fantasy. But here's something you may have missed, and miss often. The psychology of wearing a woolen jumper inside the house. This revolves around seeking comfort, body temperature, a sense of psychological safety, and cognition. Okay, a breakdown. In clothed cognition, this is a feeling of comfort, but it makes you feel cozy. Now, cozy is different from comfort. Cozy is the feeling of home, the feeling of safety, and a trigger that subconsciously lowers your stress levels and increases your contentment and calms the nerves. So when you are dating a woman, if she puts on your shirt, she is confident and bonding with you. If she's putting on on your jumper, she's moving in, mate. She's moving in. All right. Can work with jackets as well, particularly if you're a leather jacket or your corduroy pants, or pretty much if she's removing her panties under the sheets. No, if she's removing them in front of you, that is her trying to lure you in. She's not comfortable. She's comfortable when she's removing under the sheets. Yeah, women don't have logic, bro. Stop being logical. Hug mechanism. Yeah, she's hugging herself. She's trying to give herself comfort and warmth. Thermoregulation. Now, you might say she's cold. No. Thermoregulation has not been about cold. It's about feeling of warmth to improve your mood by overheating the body. Right? You create a thermal comfort zone. Now, this reduces your physical irritation. Right? So the body will be hot, start to feel comfortable, so she can't feel warm. She feels nothing without this. This is what happens when people feel nothing, okay? This is usually something that sociopaths do to comfort themselves. They'll put on it's like people who wear oversized coats all the time. They can't feel anything. They may be hot, their bodies may be hot, but they can't feel it. Sociopaths often not just don't feel emotions, they don't feel their body temperature. This is why they often stress out. You saw in the movie Joker how he jumped into the cold bath to feel something. that's yeah. You do eventually reach the point of psychological stress, and thermal comfort doesn't just apply to heating your body. It does also apply to lowering your body temperature to feel something, to calm down. But it's not the jumper itself, it's the act of either heating or cooling the body that is bringing them the comfort and improved mood. Self-reliance and control. This is about managing and controlling your comfort level without relying on, the hug or comfort of others, right? So this is a strong and brave woman. I could hug myself. I could comfort myself. I could turn on Johnny Battery whenever I want and buzz myself to joy. It's the chemical stimulation mentality. It's the fix it. They think they're fixing it, right? They quick fix, but they don't want to fix. You know what I mean? Instead of, I'm cold. The idea of being cold and putting on a jumper, one close the window. Most houses, you're not, or are you actually cold because it's cold? It's just not thinking about it, right? It's a not thinking action. It becomes a habit in which it becomes a symbol to them, a symbol of consciousness. That's another thing they do now. A lot of people are wearing wool to symbol their consciousness, that they want to show that they are somehow of some sort of higher mentality or higher awareness. Now, there are downsides to this. Most of the time, though it's soft, comforting, some wools cause irritation, and instead of providing comfort over time, they create an itchy and overheating. And again, this is probably why you get the reverse effect. Again, I can only point to a fictional movie because I don't have any real life examples to show you where someone goes between overheating themselves and then compensating by overcooling themselves. Yeah, I don't have static shock. That's another thing. People with wool tend to static shock others, but they have no regard for others. And overprotection. This leads to apathy, right? People will put on a woolen jacket and go outside in the middle of the night thinking they're comfortable and protected. Yes. I too. Yes, I too think they're psychologically damaged. Shall I? Nah, I'll leave that for now. But remember, what we are looking at is one big pile of
emotional damage.
Now that we have established the baseline of Theroux's psychological disorders, her need for control, her need for comfort, the need to show how smart she is, the need to hide her age, and the need to self-stimulate, and her penis envy. Let's see what she has to say about Mr. Theroux. Short, but to the point, I believe. We do not have to listen to her yammer on. I'll tell you what she's on about after.
Here, and then we'll talk about it.
Do you believe in doing the right thing for its own sake? Like, obviously, you've got a couple of criminal cases, right?
Oh, look, this is the twat shit that you start saying, bro. Honestly, this is the stuff that pisses me off. Why do you need to go there?
He's not going to talk about any
Why do you need to go
any
there?
issues or
Well,
not.
I'm just talking about what's been reported. You don't have to say anything you don't want
Such a little twat, mate.
If you don't agree with what Harrison's doing, then why are you making money off of it on a programme by publicising it?
you're doing it because you think he's a controversial character, so you're making money off the back of it, and that's all your programs are.
Even with your mate Jimmy Savile.
Even
with your good mate Jimmy Savile, mate.
Do you know what? I get Jimmy Savile energy from some of the Manosphere.
Okay, briefly. Louis Theroux worked at the BBC and was not just friends, he was good friends with a PDF file, Jimmy Savile. Louis has no knowledge or claims to have no knowledge or have witnessed anything in wrongdoing by Jimmy Savile, and was only at the BBC in the late stages of Jimmy Savile's career, where most of his offending was allegedly off what they called the campus. Louis Theroux has addressed this. But Louis Theroux is a documentary maker with a company. He knows damn well Andrew Tate cannot talk about his legal issues, whether on camera or off camera. And him asking him, do you believe in doing the right thing no matter what? That's an ethical question that has nothing to do, right, with the fact that, he's trying to get a gotcha moment here. It is a technique of abuse. But no, Lady Feminist wants you to believe that Andrew Tate is the manipulator. Now, Andrew Tate does have his acolyte. I don't know who he is, but he's obviously filming the whole thing for his own purposes, for his own material. Hey, if I was being interviewed, I would do it too. Every interview I've in, I've tried to rebroadcast. Heck. Self-promotion, man. Remember, Andrew Tate is not caring what Theroux isn't his audience. Theroux' audience is not his audience. He don't care what these broken garden tools think. I am just explaining to you why these broken garden tools are not broken by men, but themselves and their paranoid state. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you. All psychologists are mentally ill. It's just whether or not they're bipolar. Yeah. But yes, usually feminists are.
Because Jimmy Savile used to refer to women. HS seem to have changed tactics to put me on the back foot.
No. It is you're interviewing an interviewer. He is naturally going to interview you to dig out you, right? He's doing a show, you're doing a show about him while he's doing a show about you. You have to give and take. But Louis Theroux is a BBC Illuminati. I am just the interviewer. He thinks that he is just he does not think of himself as the performer, the entertainer, or the Johnny on the spot, the observer asking questions for the audience. No. Louis Theroux is an intellectual exposing the darker side of humanity to bring enlightenment to us mere savages.
Can I ask you a question? Are Israel committing genocide?
He's live streaming, yes. We know that. HS TikTok, HS is another one Louis Theroux exposed. TikTok he exposed that Louis Theroux just goes for the throat. Is not interested in you as a Manosphere content creator. This is Louis Theroux, right, is asking things nothing to do about the Manosphere, right? Tate's personal life has got nothing to do, right, with the fact that some of his topics trigger feminists, especially Theroux, who does not like feminism exposed. Okay, so was he asking about Israel and genocide? Well, he knows the BBC position. He knows the official position of the BBC. So he wants to put a pin in it, right? So you know the position and the politics of the people asking the question. So, it's not coming from a place of genuine fact-finding. Now, I do not, what I personally believe, I do not believe that Israel has reached the level that you could call it a genocide. And you are also ignoring the fact that there are groups who want genocide, right? My belief is when two ideologies are bad, you support neither. How about that? You don't support feminism, communism, you don't support international banking, you don't support putting groups on pedestals, but you shouldn't support Islam either. But we know where Andrew Tate's coming from. But again, these are things got nothing to do with the Manosphere.
You're a puppet. You can't say what you want to say.
Well, yeah, that's Hollywood in general. BBC. It's the entire entertainment industry. Hell, it's fucking YouTube, Andrew Tate. It is fucking YouTube. That's why he's on Kick. And even Kick ain't gonna last long. Right? It's only a beta, by the way. Right? Once the alleged AI running Kick is trained, and it will be more nuanced in its editing and fact-finding and all these other things they want to do. Kick will not be free or free from... it will not be Kick for the way it is for much longer. Once they've burnt through its initial startup money and the investors have all the data they want, they will decide how Kick proceeds from there. Who gets to kick around and who doesn't, right? And predominantly Kick will be a platform for gaming. You watch. It'll eat Twitch for lunch. Andrew Tate does not understand that he is also a puppet of a greater game. When you become a content creator, you become a tool whether you like it or not.
Think about what...
You're a puppet.
My opinion...
You're a puppet the same way you are for Savile. Puppet, mate.
Live stream.
No, we're filming for a YouTube video.
So he lied. Or this is the live stream. We do not know. So we cannot say.
The thing is with me, I don't have to edit. I don't do this bullshit editing that you guys do, where this wouldn't be in the show. I'm raw, I'm not a puppet, I'm not controlled. No one's my daddy. Savile's your daddy, the Jew's your daddy, you know it. I don't give a fuck.
So, Lewis?
Talking with the hands by a culture and cult that has... Oh, that's interesting. She's not using the high bandwidth of her large microphone. She's only using the small bandwidth of her microphone. Why would you do that? Because, again, it's about control. She knows that she does not need the high definition, high quality audio to bullshit. In fact, she doesn't want it because she is bullshitting. A psychologist once told me, if you get high enough quality audio, which is why the CIA spent so much money on audio quality, by the way, is so they can look for psychological stresses in your enunciations. Wow. So we've done the psychology of of her presentation. Now let's do the psychology of her beliefs. Right. DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender, is a manipulation tactic. It was created by feminists. It is used to exploit predators for political purposes. Dr. Jennifer Freed claims to have invented it to expose abusers and protect victims of sexual assault in domestic abuse cases to hold men accountable. However, this psychological technique was used long by lawyers long before Jennifer Freud crawled out of her mummy's vagina. Let's look into it. Deny. Technique known as gaslighting. to attack the psychological projection, to attack others for the beliefs you hold, feminism, communism, right? The Pharisees attacking Christ. It is nothing new. Reverse victim and offender. Let's not talk about me and housework. Let's talk about you and your lack of accountability. You leaving the toilet seat up. Women, right, go for every time you point out a woman's faults, flaws, or lack of accepting accountability, responsibility, or lack of contribution to the household, they will go from being the victim to the offender, right? And the women will claim to be the victim of abuse. You get this when they go to court. They will say, okay, let's take an example. Most divorces are, in fact, 60% of divorces currently are financial. Women claim that he does not provide, denies her necessities, and they will use examples where they say, we went to the grocery store and he did not buy the groceries I wanted. Now, what did she do? She probably put brand names. She probably put lots of high fat, high sugar, high salt products, right? He's probably on a special diet, and she feels guilty because she doesn't eat salads. She buys the snack bars and all the little cupcakes and treats for herself. So him denying her those cupcakes and treats is denying her her necessities, her comfort food. Once you've seen it, just Google divorce court on YouTube. I've seen enough divorce court videos on YouTube to last a lifetime. But you often see Judge Judy, you often see the victim is actually the one who's been attacked. He won't pay damages to my car. Judge says, who hit whom? I was backing up, but he didn't get out of my way. You're backing up. You have to give way. No, well, he should have got out of my way, Your Honour. You just have to see how women constantly reverse victimhood to always make sure that they're the victim and you're always the offender. Right? Workplace harassment. You stare too long at a woman. You cannot ask a woman personal questions. You have a anime figure. You got a calendar. Now they'll go around showing fireman calendars, reading 50 Shades of Grey. They'll have their latest fantasy novel about women being raped by a minotaur and calling it how empowering, and it's like, how? Right, when you actually got a minotaur with a huge cock on the front cover, right? No, that's not offensive or sexual harassment. Judging men by their cock size, by how many, the muscular density of their chest, or got a six pack or a 6-incher. Judging men by their financial status. No, that's not sexual and financial abuse. We're the victims because you're just being oversensitive. And of course, when you accuse a woman of being vindictive or making false allegations, you're automatically branded a sexual offender. Women will not believe you ever. They will never believe women lie about sexual offenders. Why? Because they will not turn around and look at the fact that the vast majority of sexual offenders are perpetrated by Africans. But in Africa, they're not, and then they'll just say, that's because they're not, that's because they're the majority in Africa. So, of course, the majority of men who commit sexual offences are going to be black. No, they commit the majority of sexual offences around the world. With South Africa having the highest rate of sexual offenders. But no, you just want to focus on Epstein and a handful because you want to isolate a section of society, project that onto all your political opponents so that you can bring down the government because you lost the election. That's why the Epstein case will never go away or ever be resolved and can never be resolved because the women who were involved got paid. You cannot take someone to court if they were sued, right? It's double jeopardy. All Pam Bondi has to do, but judges have sealed the files. They're trying to unseal the files. Judges refuse to release the files. So women are using a controversial case to draw your attention away from all the other cases that is being the sexual predators being rounded up by the US Marshals and deported. See how they are denying reality? They are actually attacking you for going after sexual predators because you're somehow not protecting minorities or protecting women, right? Women constantly see themselves as a minority, even though they're 51% of the fucking population and have often been the majority. And women of colour are not the minority. They're the majority of the world. Women are always gaslighting you. They're always denying reality. They're always trying to control reality. They're always engaged in manipulation in order to create confusion. They create confusion so you fall into a primitive state where you have to own, where you, in order to survive in a highly combative society, have to be pragmatic because you want to conserve your energy to pick the battles you know you can win. And when you know you can't win against a feminist because no matter what you say, they will always make it about you and always claim you are denying, that you are attacking them, that they are the victims of your misogyny, you will eventually shut down and stop talking to them. That is how, right, what many men psychologically preserve themselves, by going mgtow. I do not blame you. I encourage you to protect your dignity and psychological state because the pussy ain't worth it. Now, the high-profile cases is constantly used where women constantly complain that men attack survivors. Sorry, Bill Clinton did not attack his rape victims. Hillary did. Joe Biden did not attack his sexual accusers. Jill did. Barack Obama had mysterious deaths around him. No one brought them up. Still, they will not talk about the recent one of a man found face down in his fountain. How many people have to die, fall off boats? Right? How many men of a certain particular ethnicity and build and body type have to die before you say it is a pattern? Remember, Michelle is always protecting Barry. When you look at the allegations against Steve Witkoff, Kamala denies that he chases his nannies. Now, there are conservatives like the alleged conservative Arnold Schwarzenegger, who said he went through a bad spell with his wife, and so he turned to his nanny, who was the only one willing to sleep with him. I get that. That's what happens to men. They isolate you, right? Then they deny you any happiness to drain you, and then they drive you to quote unquote offend, right? Where then they say you are the employer and she's the nanny. She has to sleep with you because she's not empowered. So imagine being married for a long time in a sexless political marriage, right? And you can't go out. You can't have affairs. And then someone is offering you everything for free and he didn't see the obvious entrapment. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger got entrapped, right? In manipulation. Once you start to see manipulation, you just can't unsee it. How many, right? And what's the crime rate? How many are false? False reports. About 10% are false. Now, some studies suggest it's more like 5. Now, these false reports range from rape to sexual harassment. These are total. Right? And again, they try to diminish it by saying it's a small amount. 10% ain't a small amount. 10% of 9,800 cases are false. When you consider overall 20% of people in prison are over-sentenced, and now you got 10% who are innocent, that's not a small number, is it? And remember, they consider words to be sexual assault. Now again, remember, these are psychological techniques that weren't developed by feminists. They were developed by lawyers to get their clients off, particularly sexual offenders, created by law groups, ADL, to get sexual predators off, to protect gangsters from their consequences of their crimes, because they do not believe that they are, they believe that they are their poverty and so-called historical oppression. Now, there's a lot of gangsters in the world. It's hard to provide the exact number of Jewish gangsters in organised crime. Historically, in the 20th century, you had the majority of gangsters. And many notable figures, Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, Michael Cohen, were all gangsters. The Cohen family fortune comes from Mickey Cohen. And he got his fortune from the inherited fortune from slavery. He didn't need to be a gangster. He was already rich, but he didn't portray himself as rich because right? There's no accurate count. Historically, however, a lot of Jewish gangsters, in particularly Murder Inc., were actually, a lot of Italian mafia were actually Jews. They portrayed themselves as Catholic to fit into their new community. The Detroit gang, the Cleveland Mafia, Berman and others were all, and some Nazis were actually Jewish. They changed their name from Mayer to Berg. Name made up. Sugar Mountain. Sugar in German. Zucker. Mountain. Berg. Name made up to protect war criminals. Alright. Chicago gangsters were notoriously almost entirely Jewish. Now, in modern organised crime, it's more diverse, but there are 6, however, Jewish crime families still active in America, known as the Kosher Nostra. Now, this is important because a lot of the crime families are a mixture of lawyers and psychologists who spend a lot of time and money peddling influence and creating narratives, such as the funding of the ADL, to get you to think that investigations of these crime figures is nothing but anti-Semitism. So we have historical reverse victimhood in Jewish groups, right? Creating the ADL to protect Jewish gangsters. We have sexual predators, left-wing sexual predators whose wives protect them. We have many political organizations where you have George Soros, a man in his 80s, dating 18-year-old Brazilian models and getting sued for $20 million for sexual harassment of younger models without specificity. The man is not allowed in Brazil without an escort. They settled the case out of court. And often this is the case. So we have feminist scholars and activists who routinely use DARVO techniques and what they do is they use their privilege to identify, name, and expose alleged sexual predators before they are found guilty. They put the accusation out in public, claiming it's a need to empower survivors and find more victims. Now, the thing is, this creates what's called the snowball effect. I will investigate the DARVO and more later. This is just particularly about her and how she uses it in the Manosphere, right? She is using this exchange between Andrew Tate and Lewis, right? How he is establishing a baseline for Lewis's credibility, because Lewis has attacked Andrew Tate's credibility. Now, Andrew Tate, like most men, will immediately defend themselves as soon as they're personally attacked, defend their credibility, because remember, their credibility is their business. If Louis Theroux's business is tearing men down. Theresa's business is tearing men down. So you have Lewis and Theroux denying, right, Andrew Tate a fair hearing. Sorry, I've had to record this many times. I apologize. My neighbours just don't know what an exhaust is. And they will sit there revving their car sometimes for hours every day. It's just... And you can imagine how noisy it is if I didn't have the windows shut. It's not... And of course then there's the garbage truck. There's many people out there right now idling their cars outside. I don't get it. Now, women don't need evidence. Right? All they want to do is destroy a man's credibility and character in public so they can get their guilty verdict in trial. There's no fair trial in America. That's gone. There's no fair trial in Britain. That's gone. Right? Workplace harassment. You only need the accusation to get a man fired. Legal battles. You can't. Every lawyer, particularly Georgetown University and psychologist, is all indoctrinated. They're all indoctrinated. There's no fair institution in America because free speech. There's no free speech. It's all manipulation. You are told what to think at university. How is that free speech? Manipulation. Women deliberately create confusion around a man's credibility to create doubt. And they create false memory in victims. Gaslighting. E. Jean Carroll could not remember where, when, or the exact... All she could remember is a feeling. That is an accusation without foundation in legal parlance. But they changed the law, they changed the standard of law, they changed the threshold of proof, all to get one person. Unfortunately, it backfired on them. You know that, right? It brought out many other sexual abuse cases, why they expired the law after a year, because it was starting to get backfire against many Democrats. Because women, they don't care which side of the aisle they're on. If you got money, they'll go for you. If they can get $20 million of Donald Trump's money, you'll have endless sexual harassments until the end of time. But what we have was statute of limitations to prevent someone bringing up something historical, right? Because a person can't defend themselves from something that happened 20 years ago, especially when it's put out in public, especially in an area that votes against you consistently. That is not the definition of a fair trial. Now, many high-profile cases, not just Donald Trump, have seen where public opinion is used to derail, to railroad, and then deny justice to alleged sexual predators. And some have, even though found not guilty later on appeal, it doesn't matter. The damage is done. Theroux and others will always believe you're a sexual predator, Andrew Tate. They'll always portray you as a sexual predator. Theroux will always bring up Andrew Tate's past.
Every day for the past 30 years, you high-heeled pit bulls have blamed us for everything. From not being able to get into Harvard to not being able to get into stretch pants.
Now, here she is, hand-pecking you. Right, now we move on to everybody's... Until Andrew Tate, the target of the day was Jordan Peterson.
Get the family out to Romania, where you are there safe. Why do you...
He moved to Romania to get away from the British fascists, and who were out to get him. But he was also moving to Romania, which he was not safe. Romania has laws too, you stupid gaslighting bitch. But she thinks you're stupid and will believe her. And unfortunately, there are people stupid enough to believe her. Oh, she does the head cock. You see it in Japanese anime. The head cock is like, huh? They're trying to get you to mimic them to be confused, right? It's to create confusion. But initially, the head cock was meant to symbolize confusion. But psychologists do that to get you to mirror them. All right? The hand wave, dismissal. Hail the Queen, right? But here's the thing. Romania, being corrupt, was not to protect Andrew Tate. It was a trap to lure him in because they control Romania. The EU controlled the police there. Andrew Tate was led to believe that he would be free, right? They could not pursue their cases against him in Romania because they did not happen in Romania. That is true. But he was under attack. But you are treating him as guilty before he is found guilty. But then she pivots from Andrew Tate with her false allegations, her pseudo-legal, he's evading justice. They always paint the negative, unless it's...
You need to go there, bro. Anyway, the respectable wing, and I've talked about this before, the Scott Galloways, the James Sextons, Jordan Petersons, the respectable wing of the Manosphere. They still do DARVO, but it's quieter, but it's structurally identical.
So that's my idea of the patriarchy, which is a system of male dominance of society.
Yeah, but that's not my sense of the patriarchy.
So what's yours?
Well, in what sense is our society male-dominated? This is a trope that people just accept. Western society is a male-dominated patriarchy. It's like, no, it's not. That's not true. This whole patriarchy thing, I think you have no idea how pernicious and dangerous it is.
Well, no, I don't. I really don't. Go on.
Throughout history have fundamentally cooperated to push back against the absolute catastrophe of existence. A terrible death rate, the probability of chronic starvation, early death, disease, the difficulty of raising children, with all the death that was associated with that. And to look backwards in time and say, well, basically what happened was men took the upper hand and persecuted women in this tyrannical patriarchy is an absolutely dreadful misreading of history. It's a terrible thing to teach young women, and it's a horrible thing to inflict upon men.
Deny that...
See, if you tell the truth, it's denial. You weren't there. But they are rewriting history, just like black people are trying to paint Vikings, samurai, the Moors, even kung fu as all black. The Goths were all diverse and made up of a mixture of Africans and brown Europeans. That the Cheddar Man, Pigtown Man were all black. See, this is the problem. You do not accept feminism, you are considered a sexual predator. There is no going back. There is no salvation. This person is a fascist. By the very true nature and definition of a fascist, they use politics, they use manipulation techniques to silence you. They create laws to protect themselves and to, at the same time, to prevent you from speaking out. Anybody who speaks out is either an anti-Semite, an Islamophobe, a racist, a misogynist, and again, the respectable manosphere. Yes, Jordan Peterson is telling the truth about history. You had to cooperate. The kings and queens, right, were not immune from the Black Death. The medieval time was brought, feudalism was brought to an end, right? Then creating democracy as a continuance of government, because our government, our very institutions were collapsing, because nobody, whether rich or poor, clean or dirty, smart or dumb, were immune. Nobody for centuries was immune to the Black Death. Now, Nostradamus claimed to have saved people from it. It's debatable whether or not rosemary oil or rose oil or any of these other techniques used did anything. But we do know that eventually a soap, which is supposedly credited to Jews and was later patented by Sunlight, was the actual cure. There are many who believe the soap actually came from gypsies and was stolen by the rich establishment by a gangster named Herschel in Hungary and Romania, and moved to Britain and remained there so under the protection of, I think it was Richard, even though Richard had expelled the Jews. There, the British establishment bathed in this oil called Sunlight oil, right? And for a long time, the establishment kept Sunlight oil to stave off leprosy and all these other skin diseases only for the royal establishment. So it wasn't the patriarchy, right? It was kings and queens. Remember, there are more queens than kings in history, and queens accounted for more, not less wars. More laws, not less wars, or less laws. Or freedom. The freedom index goes down under female rulers, not up. Historically, oppression is from women, right? You as a man are not free to do as you please with your body. If a woman offers you sex, you're married, therefore you're not free to have sex with someone else. But a woman, well, it's my body, my choice. If you can't handle my sexuality, you're not a man. If you can't handle my sexual history, you ain't a man. If you can't raise my free coal-burnt brats from different men, you ain't a man. If you can't take us to Red Lobster and pay the bill, you ain't a man. You know? Gaslighting. And it all comes from
kids. The Royal Order of Sour Grapes for having a raisin for a brain. Son of foul rascal.
Psychology does not require thinking. All you have to do is follow a pattern and a formula, right? Establish a baseline parameter. Narcissist. They don't even use proper terms anymore. Pedophilia is one of 20 paraphilia. They don't even care about the others. But pedophilia is such a minority crime, but it's such a horrible crime. But it's a minority crime which could be easily stamped out if women took responsibility and sheltered their children, if men were allowed to take responsibility for and shelter women. Then any abuse in the home would be, you could isolate and immediately deal with the man. Or if it's a male relative, it would be easy and apparent. But what happens? You now have predators in the form of teachers, lawyers, many other professions, including doctors and priests. But they only focus on the priests. Yet the priests account for the minority of crimes in a minority crime. Same way they ignore women. The majority of abuse of children is women. But they focus on pedophilia because the majority of women do not sexually abuse the child. They psychologically and physically abuse the child. Even though it may be often for their own personal sexual gratification, there is no sexual contact, therefore they're not treated as a sexual predator. The same way women sexually abuse men. They do not have to force you, therefore they're not considered a criminal. So the next time a woman screams about men cheating, just say, my body, my choice. Right? We will eventually outsmart, outlast, outmaneuver women. And as for the population gap, I'm telling you, we have the answers if we really wanted to. We can fix everything if we really wanted to. It's just that men don't want to save women because women have made it abundantly clear they ain't worth it. They are beyond salvation, right? You cannot reason with Theroux. There's no point in going to her account and abusing her. She and her psychotics get off on abuse. They laugh at abuse. Okay, they think that you're the abuser. They say that abuse is your favorite tactic, even though we can clearly see she's a psychological manipulative person. And Andrew Tate, he is a victim who doesn't want to be a victim. Aren't we all not wanting to be victims? What is wrong with Andrew Tate? If he's a grifter, let him grift. Grifters go broke, bro. They all do. They play themselves or start playing each other to see who's smartest. And we eventually reach that point of psychological decline, or we meet someone smarter than us. There's always someone smarter. There's always someone who's going to be prettier. And someone's always going to be more popular. And someone's going to be more cunning. Right? We all lose in the end. Right? But Theroux, she's a loser from day one. So thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel and support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.